Hello and welcome back to tomorrow's best practices today. Today we pick up the second half of our conversation with Arya Barirani. Now Arya, you may recall, is CMO of both Hitachi Americas and Hitachi Digital. And as such, had so much to share with us that we needed to split his insights into two episodes. So first of all, if you missed part one, you can go back and get that. But if you missed it, what are you doing? Why are you not subscribed to tomorrow's best practices today so you don't ever miss anything? We're available on YouTube. We're available anywhere that you get your podcasts. So please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss anything going forward. But if you somehow did miss last episode, Arya spoke about his approach to maintaining and evolving the Hitachi brand, a very established brand, not a clean sheet of paper, and how things were a little different in doing so. The importance of an integrated sales and marketing approach, particularly when you're selling high ticket items like Hitachi sells. It's really not an option for marketing and sales to be very integrated and in coordination. And finally, how he has taken the things that they learned during the pandemic to evolve their digital post-pandemic marketing strategy. So all of that is in the last episode. Go check it out. Today, you're about to hear about how maybe organizations that aren't as big as Hitachi can take some of the lessons that Arya has learned and scope them down to a smaller, more focused team so that we can all apply these learnings. We're going to hear about Arya's framework for how AI is evolving and the business implications of that, and specifically the future marketing leadership skills that Arya thinks are going to be important for a world as we move into more and more AI agents and even physical AI. So there's a ton to learn. Thanks for coming back and joining us. I, at this point, will hop out and let us get right to the truth bombs from Arya Barirani of Hitachi.
Well, and but what you've been able to do is, and perhaps not everybody can do this at scale, but you can do it yourself. But also, the play is always kind of attaching yourself to maybe an industry event or something. So if you don't have the resources to maybe put on a full MBA course, how can you get to where folks are gathering for that value and the validation at an industry event and break off your piece of it? I'm sure you guys do plenty of that
Yeah,
as
we
well.
do. We tie to that, and you might be able to just kind of shrink that down to a 90-minute dinner. That's kind of
Yeah.
what when I said trying to get clients to a dinner. That's kind of the venue that we create in these when we take this on the road. Right now, we're not going to bring in a Neil Ferguson or a Jim Collins, but we bring our CTOs in, and the CTOs who don't know anything about selling, by the way, they usually sit down and they're like, "Hey, this is the kind of stuff that I've done. These are the problems." CTOs usually have seen the problems that customers have run into most often. So they're the ones that are at the dinner table and they're exchanging information and we see a lot of that kind of dynamic. CTOs are great at that. And then the other thing that I would say for your audience is at some point you're going to have to figure out like that engagement with existing clients. So I'm a big believer in user conferences and kind of figuring out how to mix that user conference with a prospect event.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
and so that's kind of what that is
Yeah.
for us. So there's a modality for that. But the problem that I see, the biggest breakdown I see is that the product guys end up, hijacking your user conference, right? And they're like, I want 50
Yeah.
sessions on, product A through Z,
Yeah.
right? And we got to have breakouts and all of that. And it's like, screw
Got
that.
to got to show the roadmap. We got to get the feedback. We got to, and which is all valuable, right? That's the trick is you get only so many opportunities to get these groups of people looking each other in the eye. And how do you make it valuable enough for them, not just to draw them, but for them to be in the right mindset of exchanging value with you too, right? Which is kind of the secret sauce of making these events work.
Or at
Um,
least be clear about the intent. I can tell you, like when we look at these
sure,
technical
yeah, yeah,
decision makers, yeah, they want to go in and they want to go, get hands on a product
Yeah.
and look under the hood, right?
Drill
But
in.
you
Yeah.
could do that very efficiently. You could do a technical conference. You throw people a t-shirt and a water bottle and they're happy, and they can get really hands on with the tech. We've seen that also. Some of our brands, at the Hitachi level, we're doing more executive engagement. But at the product level or the business unit level, we do see some tech conferences where, you bring people in and let them look under the hood and ask questions. And by the way, the smart thing to do is to have them talk to you, right? Because they'll always make your product better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. At some point, it does come down to the speeds and feeds in some of these businesses. Um, So obviously, one of the huge waves that's going, we're talking about kind of how we've negotiated people, being stuck at home. Now they're back out in motion. Where you guys are shifting the framing of your brand, the offerings that you're putting in market. As all of this is going on, even larger wave is going on around artificial intelligence. Right. From all the way inside the marketing organization, how you're using it, to the brand and how you're talking about it, to the ramifications on the offerings themselves. So how's Hitachi, obviously a global power like Hitachi, obviously you've mentioned Nvidia already. There's massive skin in the game as well. How are you guys thinking about AI, both as an offering, as a piece of infrastructure, and as an impact on the market and culture, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. Wow, it's obviously the hot topic, and we actually were joking. I have a AI Center of Excellence call that I'm on a weekly basis, and we were talking about agentic AI, and I'm like,
Mhm.
agentic AI, that was so December, right? You know, this stuff
Yeah.
is big and it's moving really fast, right?
Yeah.
Where we went from like generative to agentic, and now Mr. Jensen Huang's talking about physical AI, which is AI at the edge, robots being really smart, and
Mhm.
cars being really smart, and infrastructure being really smart. And so it's a very, very fast moving and dynamic world. How we're breaking it down, and it took us a long time. I think again, we're a big company, and AI is happening in a lot of different pockets. But our orientation was, at the end of the day, AI for us falls into two kind of big broad buckets. AI is going to drive either efficiency internally,
Sure.
or it's going to drive acceleration and revenue, right? I mean, that's like the simplest way I
Mhm.
can put it. Efficiency is when, our HR department uses AI to create a chatbot for the employees, right? Or when the manufacturing team uses AI to do some really cool process automation or process, optimization. I mean, these are like complex problems that can be solved in manufacturing process, supply chain, or, HR chatbot. Those are efficiency plays. Those are going to make your developers faster. It's going to make your services better and all of that kind of stuff. The acceleration play is predominantly in a couple buckets. How do I make my products better? We saw a lot of software companies get out of the gates very quickly. Like my Zoom had some AI, whiz bangy stuff on it, like within 3 days.
Yep.
Um, so those are new product enhancements, and we're looking through those. And the second area is and new services. By the way, we're helping with a lot of our
Yeah.
clients build AI stuff. Hitachi is helping clients build their AI vision, right? So new products and services, and then new business models. If you had a Boston, consulting group quadrant, new business models is the upper right quadrant. It's new, right? It's new areas. What kind of new workloads? What kind of new revenue opportunities can I create? So that's kind of how we organize everything, and then that allows us to look at whatever project we're working on and say, aha, this is our efficiency bucket. We'll leave it there. And that helps me a lot from a marketing perspective. Like I'm more focused on the acceleration side of the equation. Like, what are we selling? How are our products getting smarter? What is Hitachi's kind of position in terms of the AI leadership race, and how are we perceived? It's a tough battle when you got some big players, with some big money, going after this. It's a race between giants, right? And you know
Yeah.
who they are, right? Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Nvidia, they're all racing to this thing.
Yeah.
And it's a tough gig right now to get a voice in that. But we're breaking it down. We're moving it forward.
Yeah, and a firm like Hitachi can, as you point out, participate multiple ways, right? You're a little bit of an arms dealer, you're a little bit of a field general, you're a little bit of a,
Right.
I don't know, so,
On
peeling some
services,
potatoes where they need be.
we were able to move really quickly because like the service teams are like, aha, these are the things I can do. I got
Yeah,
these accelerators. I can help clients do these designs and this and that. So services, because they don't have to worry about product roadmaps, right? The product guys are now like building the tech into it, and so they're catching up. And there's a whole bunch of new challenges with companies like Hitachi that has hard goods. Like when you have, what they call brownfield assets. I don't like that term. Brownfield assets. These are things that are already installed somewhere and they're hard to kind of upgrade, like
Mm,
a transformer or a
yeah,
thermostat, right? If that thermostat was put in 5 years ago, most likely it's not going to be able to send the kind of data that you need to be able to do whiz-bangy AI stuff with, right?
yeah,
So that physical asset is probably a dumb or unconnected asset. And so it's harder to do AI in those modalities. So, there's different folks, different speeds for different folks.
right.
If you're a cloud provider like Zoom is, or, like Microsoft Azure, hell yeah, you could put your engineering teams to work and they can build co-pilots and translators and all of that kind of stuff very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, that's a really interesting point that I hadn't thought about, which is when you're in an infrastructure play like this and applying AI, because we think about generative AI as marketeers and the agents that we can all then have, but in research, in infrastructure, these optimizations, in manufacturing, as you point out, those are huge opportunities that will just elevate efficiency, but I think just prosperity for everybody. And there's a lot of corners that you just can't paint in yet until everything is online, everything is shareable, everything is AI can actually access them to get to that physical, to get to Jensen's physical frontier, right? Yeah. So so obviously you're working with a lot of the key players, and Josh Scholer's probably a little bit with them as well. And you've got a really structured strategy uh, across the board, across the matrix, as you mentioned. How do you inform that? How do you stay on top of things outside of Hitachi? How do you inform that from the outside world? It's changing so fast. You're making investments, you get colored by your own investments. How do you keep your periscope up to know that the sub's heading in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so one of the things we did early on was come to a realization that we didn't have the know-how in the house, right? All of this stuff is moving fast, and we hadn't hired, like, we didn't have a whole bunch of AI experts. And we had machine learning guys, we had really, really smart people, but we didn't come to the table with a huge bench of like AI experts that could, inform our strategy. So we did a smart thing and we went out and we recruited an external AI advisory team. It took us about 6 months, 9 months to do it. And we went and hand selected people from kind of three categories of people. We wanted academics and researchers that kind of know the fundamentals of this stuff from a science perspective, right? We wanted some smart CTOs from enterprise companies and software companies that are actually building this stuff,
Living it. Yep. Yep.
living it, building it. They've already like probably bumped their knees a couple times, right? And so they've got some experience. And then the third group was a number of startups that are kind of the leading edge guys. Like they know what's happening with version 3 of Chat GPT's whatever model, right? And they're like, this is what the LLM structure should look like to take advantage of these movements. And so we decided those were the three cohorts we're going to go recruit from. So we built a 9-person team
Wow.
of external advisors that meets. They're all very busy and very successful folks, of course, but we meet once a quarter, twice a year in person, twice a year on Zoom, and we just soak up as much. It's about a day and a half, and we soak up as
Wow.
much of we bring all of our like questions to them at that time. In fact, the next one is at the end of March, the week after GTC, NVIDIA GTC,
Hmm.
and I'm taking my marketing plan to them, right? And so I'm like, hey, here's my communications plan and my marketing plan. Here's some positioning stuff we're working on. What do you
Yeah.
think? Is this going to fly, right? And so I'm supremely happy that I got outside people that, sorry, I don't know if this is R-rated, that'll call bullshit on stuff that we're doing because we're navel
Yeah.
gazing, right? I want that external validation, and I want someone to give me like really hard criticism. Like,
Yeah.
you guys are smoking something. This is not going to fly. Go
Yeah.
redo it. I want that, And so hopefully we'll, that body has been really helpful for us.
That's amazing. What an amazing resource. And what can hope to persist is the other thing I think about it. Like even if something makes absolute sense in January, the pace of stuff is changing by March. It could be, like you're saying, that's so December, right? Generative AI agents. What are you talking about? And so what are the underpinnings that you can kind of count on while you're swapping out maybe the specifics of the story, the application? What a resource. So for those of us that don't have, a 9-person super friends, a chamber of knowledge to go to, would you share an example or two of major learnings that, and maybe in the marketing realm or in the business in general, the landscape in general, that you could share?
100%. So, I don't know. Maybe this is pedantic for the folks that live and, breathe this stuff every day. But we had an oh shit moment when we met the first time with these guys. And we came in and we brought our CTOs in, and here's what we've been working on 10 years of ML, and we're not new to AI. And, you get a nugget every now and then. So I'll throw this nugget from our first meeting where one of our advisors said, "Where's your data strategy?" And we all kind of looked at each other. We're like, "What data strategy?" And he's like, "Where's your data strategy?" It's like, you guys are talking AI, you're talking about generative AI, you want to get all this smarts out of your large language models and all of that, and you got a whole bunch of different pockets of data and all of this kind of stuff. You don't have a data strategy. You can't have an AI strategy if you don't have a data strategy, because the AI stuff works off of your data. And so if you want to get smarts out of the system, you have to have a data strategy. And we're like, okay, well, let's talk about the data. And then we found out that the data is in 5,000 different pockets. It's
Of
completely
course.
unstructured. It's in 100 different sources. We have no way of normalizing it. Some of it is, by the way, at the client site, and it's behind a
Mm,
privacy screen that we can't access. It's their usage of the product, or however, whatever the telemetry is on the whatever the thermostat. I'll use the
right.
thermostat example again. Some of the stuff, if it's a
Yeah.
physical asset, is not accessible to you. And so we all kind of had like this, holy cow, what's our... So then we're like, okay, thank you very much. Let's go to dinner. And then we all kind of came together afterwards and we were debriefing. And we're like, oh shit, we better go get a data strategy. So that was like 3 months of work that then we went back to to our advisory board. The second time around, we're like, here's a data strategy. Now can you tell us about AI, right? It's kind of
Right,
like,
right, right. It's like you're not even a grasshopper. You're not even ready for this conversation yet. But it's not. It's not necessarily an obvious. Even going back to our old business intelligence days, right? It remains the biggest challenge of it, as something as mundane as sales and marketing alignment, which we talk a lot about in this podcast and in the Leadtail community, right? It's always the same goddamn thing of the Marketo doesn't match the Salesforce, and put it all in a data cube. But this guy runs. Well, no, that's a slightly different report. Like, well, what's and you're going to automate all this stuff, and you're going to let it be uh, independently generated and everything. You've got to have it all in a currency, right, that can move around. Um,
so
that's funny. That's amazing.
that was a really big learning. And then the other learning that I'll tell you, and this also came from the Jim Collins work about the whole flywheel thing. Start
Uh-huh.
with the who, not the what. And so that's the other thing that they told us. They said, what's your team look like? What skill sets are they coming with, right? And so we had some smart people, but we hadn't really done a hard vetting of, do we have the right people on the boat to be able to
Yeah.
go build that strategy. So we
Right.
did a little bit of self-inspection and introspection, and we built that. I don't know. I think with some, again, depending on the size of the organization, you may or may not be ready for that. But you generally, here's what I've come to the conclusion that what's old is new again, right?
Hmm.
It's AI today. It's now we're talking AI transformation. Like, hey, we're going to help you build that AI transformation strategy, right? 10 years ago was digital transformation. The modalities were different. The questions then were, are you mobile, right? Are you digital, right? Are you contactless, right? And so a whole bunch of companies were like, oh my God, I'm not there yet. All my legacy products don't play with mobile, right?
Yeah.
They were built on a whole different kind of architecture. The architecture was wrong, right? We're in that same world again. We're doing AI transformation, and at the end of the day, it's still software, right? And it's still about, are you on a stack that can kind of move, move and be agile? And I'll
Hmm.
use an automotive example if you guys indulge me for 30 seconds. One of the smart automotive companies that we work with decided that they were going to treat the car like a device. Okay. They said the car is no different than the iPhone. And so we're going to build an OS for it. This OS does not control the airbag or the anti-lock brakes or the safety critical systems. That system is a, guarded electronic system. But the stuff that you interact with inside the cabin, HVAC, human machine interface, all of that kind of stuff, that's going to
Entertainment,
be on an
all that.
OS.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to do over the air updates on that. I'm going to be able to change the apps on that. I'm going to be able to do that. So what happened is when they went to that architecture, they were able to get ChatGPT in the car in 3 weeks with their voice assist interface. So I could do my ChatGPT query in the car while I'm driving, right? Why were they be able to do that? Because they had a stack. They had a stack. It was a software stack. It was set up for apps, and they just slotted a new, capability on top of it. So it's still software, and that's the skill set. Hopefully, a lot of our tech companies that are going to be watching this, look at the software skill sets that you have. It's no different than what we did 10 years ago, but obviously with a whole new amazing
Yeah.
tool.
Well, you're right. I mean, it goes back to the Collins, getting the right people on the bus or the boat. Maybe that's a Japanese thing. I don't know. But get the right people. You have this right skill set, right? And even that is changing because some of those people, quote unquote, might be agents or AI. I mean, that's the interesting thing about this frontier with AI is, like you said, everything old is new again. Um, but it's sort of like maybe different wine in the bottles, right? To mix analogies, that some of this stuff is going to be happening. You're going to need the skill sets of folks that are really good, frankly, managers, right? Managers of these agents, uh, querying these agents, directing these agents, leveraging them, and keeping them in formation. And it's going to be really interesting, I think, for career paths, right? Those of us that have some context and have this learning and know and have kind of the soft skills that we always thought of HR skills or emotional intelligence. There's going to be this managing of AI intelligence, I think, that comes out of that as well.
Yeah. And for the folks that are watching that you're in the security business, I think this is a completely new blue ocean for you. What I've seen across the board in our clients, as well as some of the work that we've done in conversations with our advisory, everyone's over rotated on productivity and creative AI or getting all that smarts out of the AI. We're
Yeah.
way under rotated on security. And so it's just like the wild west of what kind of cool features and gadgets, and people are now watching the back door very carefully. I think that to me is probably the bigger risk. There's a couple other, there's like
Yeah.
the ethics and responsibility side, but I think security is still a really underappreciated facet of this whole thing.
Yeah. In a world where we're already spearfished 20 times a day, right? For example, and if you got AI that never, learns quickly, never sleeps, it's just pounding away, making the assets look a little bit better, making it a little bit trickier, making it more personalized. Yeah, I mean, what an important and lucrative space to be in. We know a few folks in that space. And we know a lot of folks. This is a community at the end of the day, right? Folks want to gather, come here, learn from you, learn from your experience, Arya. A big part of the Leadtail mission is for sales and marketing folks like us practitioners to be able to kind of compare our notes and get together. And at the end of the day, we're all people, right? So we're doing these jobs. We've got these exciting missions like the ones that you're marching on. But we also like to just connect interpersonally. And so we always like to save a little bit of time on the podcast just to hear, outside of all the challenges and all the opportunities that we've talked about, what are the things that are enthusing you right now? Or what are the things that you're doing with your time? Or what are what are something great you might share with the community for the non-professional time that they've
Yeah.
spent?
Well, I had, I was thinking about this before the podcast, and I remember a quote from a kind of a mentor, and it depends on where you are in your arc, right? I think everything is relevant to where you're at in your time. And the way that she expressed it to me was that life is kind of divided in thirds, right? In the first third, you're learning. In the second third, you're earning. And in the third, you're returning. And so, then that's kind of like the giving back portion of it. You're
Yeah.
probably less focused on, the brass ring of the career and the title and the paycheck, but you're thinking about other things. And so, I don't want to date myself, but let's just say that I'm not in the, I'm not in the learning or earning
Yeah.
phase of my career. Um,
Well,
being in my
you
extreme
appear
late
to you
30s.
appear to still be in the earning stage, but go on.
But right now, I think for me, what kind of motivating me is what's my play in that last third is what I
Yeah.
should say. And I'm kind of still evaluating it. I have a couple passion areas. One of them is around uh, helping advance medical science, especially around diabetes. So at the age of 14, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that's been something it's a family thing, right? It's a family disease. We all been, and by the way, he's doing great. There's a lot of wonderful technology, but a lot of that technology and a lot of that good research was created because someone really put energy into kind of going out and pushing for that research. So the JDRF, Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, is
Yeah.
really an important foundation for me. If you count type 2, which is very different than type 1, there's 38 million Americans that have some form of challenge with this disease. And it's in the political realm, like, can I afford my medicine, right? It's in the research realm, like, so I've been involved with JDRF now for a little bit, and I hope to do more. So that's like a real big pet project for me, that I want to do more. The other thing that I would say, especially for those that we raised kids through our careers, and you might have young toddlers at home, a whole different set of stresses. You might have college kids, but for me, the big advice I would give to anyone is one of the great ways to get time with the kids and give back is volunteering with your schools, right?
For
So I've been
sure.
involved a lot with the administration and helping raise funds for the schools. They're always short on money, you know that, right? And so fundraising and trying to push for those right things. Like we have a group right within my neighborhood in our community that just focuses on music and art programs for schools
Yeah.
because that's usually the programs that suffer.
Always goes first. Yep.
Never never has the money, right? The music and
Yep.
arts programs. And so I've been working on those. Those are fun things for me, that I've been engaged in. Besides that, just trying to stay healthy and trying to stay active.
That's fantastic. All right. Yeah. It's all a juggling act, whether you have kids or not, your external relationships, your health, that, that triangle sort of how you think about things and how you feel about things, and then just your physical health, right? To keep you going. Yeah. As another guy in the returning phase of life, right? I kind of make fun of some of my buddies that are always reading these longevity books and everything, and then you wake up like, why do I have like, how did I pull a muscle in my sleep? Like, maybe I need to start taking care of the infrastructure a little bit. I've got, what is it, brownfield? I got a brownfield infrastructure here
That's right.
that
That's
I'm
right. That's
trying to.
exactly it. We're not greenfield infrastructure. This is brownfield infrastructure. Well, I'll give you. It's in the world of podcasts. I'm getting all of my health information now from Joe Rogan. So that's an
Oh,
upside.
there
I'm
you
now
go.
down to one ingredient meals, mostly beef, and I'm cooking everything in lard now. So it's
Boiling in lard, and yes,
boiling
I'm
in
going
lard.
for a. Yeah, who needs artificial intelligence when you got Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Oh man, it's so great to catch up with you, Arya. Thank you for taking time. I can't imagine the number of plates that you're spinning at Hitachi Americas and Hitachi Digital. Thank you for having thought this stuff through, brought so much insight to us, spending the time, and being so much fun to talk about. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys and thank you for the opportunity. I hope that we left a couple nuggets for people to pick up along the way. And we're here, reach out if you have questions. But thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Thank you, Arya, man. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye bye.